Hey there everyone, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to start Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Obviously this was the follow-up to the first Zelda game, but it was a dramatic change-up. You know, this went to the side-scrolling style game as opposed to the top-down overhead. And it was not well received because of it. I think a lot of people would have given this game a better shot if it wasn't called Zelda. You know, if for whatever reason they did something to separate it from the first one a little bit better, it might have been a little bit more well received. Which is sad because I think that this game's awesome. I think that it's a great game. It's just, it makes me laugh that people were so disappointed at the departure from the first Zelda style. Despite the first game, the only one game. It's not like there were a whole bunch of Zelda games and people were, hey, you changed the formula from what we've been seeing for years and years. It was one game. You know, so that it always kind of bums me out, but at the same time, you know, fine. If you don't want to play the game, that's fine. That's not going to stop me from enjoying the game. This area you're kind of intended to come in a little while. You get an item that lets you see in caves. You get the candle, it's going to light up everything so you can see all the enemies, but it's a really simple cave. If you saw the little buggy things that I killed in the beginning, you can actually see their legs on the floor so you can tell where they are, and the Octoroks are always in the same place. Alright, good time. Yeah, they changed up the format just completely in this game. You know, the weird overhead style. I always thought that was a little bit weird, that sort of overhead style where you, instead of fighting enemies, you get into battle areas. You know, I thought that was a little weird, but I mean it works. You know, it's fine. I don't think that's ever anything that they went back to. And it wasn't the last game to ever do it. It might have been the last Zelda game to ever do it. But I've seen other games like that. I was a huge Valkyrie Profile fan. And the second Valkyrie Profile game did that. When you got into fights, it basically opened up a little... It was like a little battle area. As opposed to just you fight an enemy and that's it. But then in that game, when you run around, you engage the enemy. And then you get into a little more of typical Valkyrie Profile battle system. Let's call it that. Alright, in the towns, you see the young red dress ladies hanging by the house. If you talk to them, they'll let you in the house and restore your health. We're not going to get into what they do in the house that restores your health. If you're in a town and someone comes out of a door and you actually see it, you need to talk to that person. That's usually the person that's going to give you the item or the spell, whatever happens to be in that town. You know, this game added a lot of cool stuff. It added the spells, you know, which were very useful. It's always a very interesting mechanic to have in a game. I thought this game was really good. I thought it was really well done. That's why, if you're looking for a good game and you've never given it a shot, if you've fallen prey to that's a terrible game, don't even bother, don't waste your time. Trust me, bother, waste your time. Well, it's not a waste of time, but it's definitely something to give a try to. Just careful, there's one in here. This is like I call this the cautionary cave. That's the cave that's supposed to let you know, hey, when you're in the dark area, these things are dangerous. Strike these guys. Oh. Don't need that. Okay. Oh, almost. Yeah, Don't underestimate the bubbles. It's not about how much damage they do, it's about knocking you into that water. Okay. So, how is everybody doing out there? I know so far the start of the year has been... I mean, it hasn't been 2016 rough, but there's been a few, let's say, hiccups. I'm sure you've got social media out there, so I'm sure your social media is kind of a wasteland of complaining for different things, and for good reason. I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying everybody's being big babies or anything. That's right, there are a lot of justifiable reasons for people to be upset nowadays, but that's one of the reasons I like to do this stuff. You guys can come here, and it's sort of an escape. I know, obviously I'm talking about it right now, but you know, it's a bit of an escape from all of that. Alright, so here we have the first palace. I'm going to do this a little bit differently than I do, because what I do usually involves a little bit of grinding. I'll show you exactly where. Woo. Yeah, on the overworld, those things are like doubly strong here. I mean, you know, still not dangerous or anything. So yeah, this game introduced a lot of different changes from the first Zelda, including an experience system, which we're going to manipulate as we go. Yeah, this is not, you know, like all my other playthroughs, this is not a speed run or anything like. I'm not going to use a bunch of glitches and stuff. But the experience gains have sort of a trick to them that you can use when you defeat one of the palaces. Alright, when you hit them, they take a lot of hits, but they're good experience. But when you hit them, you can walk through them while they're sort of stunned. They're what I usually grind. It just takes a very long time to do. We're gonna go down there. We need a key first. Alright. If you want, get one or two of the life ups. They're basically your armor. They'll make it so that hits don't take as much. But what you want to focus on really is the sword power. The sword power is always the most useful. You know, if you're new to the game, focus on the life, because you're probably going to get hit a lot. But if you've been playing this for a while, you know where everything is, and you know how to defend yourself, worry about the sword power. Don't worry about the magic power too much early on, because you have one spell. You know, so it's not really a big deal. There's always a break when he... If we get lucky, he'll drop a bag, which has more experience in it. We're not lucky. Those statues will often have a red bottle in them. Not all the time, just very often. Careful, if you hit them, they obviously, you see they're not giving me any experience. They're kind of dummy enemies. If you hit them, they'll take some health, but they'll also take experience, which is kind of annoying. Tell you what, I'll kill one of them just so you can see. Come on. Yeah, just so you can see how much. And I believe they regenerate. I believe when you walk out of the area, they'll regenerate. Yeah, see, it's kind of a pain. I think the mic is picking up me hitting the button, so that's... CC 50, which is very good. That's really good experience for, especially early on, but it's just kind of a pain. But so I'm not going to do that in front of you guys. So I'll, whack him once, and then here, we'll let him come around. Woo. Just be careful. Things, this is one of those, you get bumped out of the room and everything resets. Health pack coming up, gotta be quick. So you'll see every time I get experience up to a certain point, it gives me the option to raise a stat, which is either magic, life, which is, like I said, it's kind of like your armor. It's more really your health. It looks like 5 big units of health up there, but really, each one represents small amounts of health. Tell you what, I am gonna take that one. I don't normally take it up to 3. Because having it 400 gets in the way of what we're going to do. So I may have to do a little bit more manipulation than I was hoping to do. Alright, so that's the candle. Every palace is going to have at least one item. And the boss at the end, obviously. One important thing to remember is that the dungeon... with the palace, I keep calling them dungeons. The palaces, when you leave the palace, it's gonna be shut off. You're not gonna be able to go back in. If you got the items that are in there and you beat the boss. So we're gonna be able to use that to our advantage.